So in this video we're going to talk about total surplus, price ceilings, and price floors. So we've talked about total surplus before, we've talked about price ceilings before, and we've talked about price floors before, but we haven't talked about all three together. So we're going to start off just by kind of building a situation that we're going to talk about and analyze. So suppose that the market for cell phones is characterized by the equations: demand is where price is equal to 100 minus quantity, and supply is where price is equal to 10 plus quantity. So that's just drawn over here in the before side, and we have that the equilibrium price will be $55 and the equilibrium quantity will be 45 cell phones, and then that the consumer surplus is $1,012.50 and the producer surplus is the same, and that total surplus is equal to $2,025. So recall that total surplus is just consumer surplus plus producer surplus. And then we found consumer surplus as the area below the demand curve and above the price line, and that producer surplus was the area above supply and below the price line at the market quantity. So now we're going to just go ahead and kind of introduce a price ceiling here, and we're going to see what happens. So let's say that the government mandates that cell phones must sell for $30 or less, so that we have a price ceiling here of $30, and that's drawn in blue right here. So maybe I should underline that in blue just so that I don't confuse anybody. Okay, so now we want to know, will society be better or worse off? And when we ask, will society be better or worse off, we know that we're talking about total surplus, because it's not just asking, are consumers better off or are producers better off, but is the entire society better off? So to start off with, we just need to find equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. And it's pretty easy to find equilibrium price. We're actually told that it has to be $30 or less. And since the market clearing price is $55, I should probably put this on that after line, on this after diagram also. So I'll put this as a dotted line here because it's not actually what's going on. So this is the market clearing price of $55. Since the mandated price is less than the equilibrium price, we know that we have a price ceiling. So price is going to be bumping up against this line right here, but it won't be able to go above that because of the law. So now we're going to have to figure out, we know what the market price is. It's this right here, P sub A, which is $30. So now we need to find the market quantity. And that will be 20 cell phones, because that's how many cell phones will be supplied. There will be 20 cell phones supplied to the market, because that's all that the producers will want to produce at $30 a cell phone. But 70 people will want cell phones. So we will have a shortage which is what we would expect with a price ceiling, a shortage of 50 phones, which is just the difference between 70 and 20. So now that we know that this is the quantity after is 20, and we know the price after, now we need to figure out what consumer surplus will be. And again, consumer surplus is always the area below demand and above the market price. So we have our market price right here, this 30, and we're going to go ahead and find just the area below demand and above price, and we are going to stop at the market clearing quantity, which in this case is just 20 because there are only 20 cell phones being supplied to the market. So the area of this trapezoid will be consumer surplus. So consumer surplus after is equal to this area, and now I'm just going to use a little geometry to find it. So I'm going to split this up into this green triangle right here, and then the yellow rectangle, just because it's easier for me to figure it out that way. So the area of the green part of this triangle right here is just going to be 100 minus 80 this leg right here, times 20, that the base divided by 2. And then the area of the rectangle, changing colors so that I can kind of keep this a little bit consistent, plus 80 minus 30, so 80 minus 30, which is this leg right here, times 20. So 100 minus 80 is 20, and 20 times 20 is 400, divided by 2 is 200. So this is equal to 200, plus then 80 minus 30 is 50. 50 times 20 is going to be 1,000, so we have 200 plus 1,000. So we have consumer surplus after is equal to 1,200, $1,200. So consumers in this market are actually better off because $1,200 is more than $1,012.50. But we're going to see pretty quickly that the market as a whole, or that society as a whole, is actually worse off. So I kind of jumped the gun and told you what we're actually going to see at the end, but I think it'll make a little more sense as we go. So now we need to do the same for producer surplus, and so I'll do this in orange. And so producer surplus is the area below price and above supply up to the market clearing quantity, or the market quantity I should say, because here the market isn't going to clear because of the government mandate. So this triangle right here is going to be producer surplus, and producer surplus after. So this is just the area below price again and above supply, up to the market clearing quantity right here. So this is just going to be 30 minus 10, which is the length of this side right here, times the base, which is 20, divided by 2. And 30 minus 10 is 20. 20 times 20 is 400, divided by 2 is 200. So now we have the producer surplus after. And so producers are way worse off because $200 is way, way less than $1,012.50. And as a whole, I'll do this in red to keep it comparable to the red over there. Total surplus after is 1,200, consumer surplus, plus 200, producer surplus, which is just equal to $1,400. So we can see that because $2,025 is more than $1,400, that society was better off before and they are worse off after. So they are worse off for the government, I'm just going to abbreviate that GOVT, for the government law or mandate. So now we want to figure out exactly how much worse off are they. And so I'm just going to scroll down to give myself a little bit more room to write. And they're worse off just by the difference between these two. So the change in surplus, or the change in total surplus, is just going to be 20, or I should do this as the, let's see, I should do this as the after minus the before. So it's total surplus after minus total surplus before, which is just going to be 1400 minus 2025. So subtracting those, we get negative $625, meaning that society is worse off by $625 for this law. So again, none of these numbers are really realistic, and it's not like we're ever going to have a market for cell phones that is this small. But I just like to use these numbers because they're easy to calculate with, and so I don't get caught doing calculations and wasting your time. Okay, so we saw now algebraically that this is the loss in total surplus from the ceiling. And now we can also see graphically what that loss is. And that loss is, I'll do it in red because everything we've been doing with total surplus has been in red, is the area of this triangle right here. So the reason that this triangle represents the graphical loss in surplus is that if this triangle were colored in, the amount that's colored in on the right would be exactly the same as the amount that's colored in on the left. The before surplus would be exactly the same as the after. But it's not colored in. I just colored it in to show you what the loss actually was. Just this shape right here is the total surplus after. So what we're missing is this triangle to go on top, which isn't there. So that triangle is often called the deadweight loss of a price ceiling or a price floor. So this is often called, and I'll just say it one more time, the deadweight loss of a price ceiling in this case, or a price floor. And so that brings me to the next point, and the last point that I want to make in this video, is that if we were to impose a price floor on cell phones of $80 right here, so if this were to be, we'll call this price floor, I want you to see that consumer surplus and producer surplus would flip-flop. So then consumer surplus would just be this little part right up here, and then producer surplus would be this all down here, but that the loss of surplus, or the dead weight loss, would be exactly the same. So a price ceiling and a price floor operate the same way in their impact on total surplus, and it just depends how much of a price floor or how much of a price ceiling it is to see how big of an impact that it has. But no matter what, a price ceiling or a price floor will lead to a reduction in total surplus, and it's your job to be able to calculate how much. I'll see you in the next video.